honest. I will be brutally honest. Ain't nothing but being brutally honest. Coming at you with another video.
What's up, everybody? Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome my favorite Bears fan, a boxer, a guy from the state of Indiana, my boy, Joneth Piptne, man. How's it going, bro?
Yo, what's going on? What's going on, CP, man? Good to be back. We ain't did a show together since last season, maybe 2 years ago. This is the last time we did a show together.
It's been a long minute. Oh, yeah. It's been a while since we even played you guys. I think it was week 1 a couple years ago when you guys actually beat us at your weather game. It's that long ago, but yeah. But, hey, man, since we're doing all 31 teams, and I sincerely apologize because the overtime shift was just a killer, dude. So, since we're doing all 31 teams, we got the Chicago Bears, man. So why not have somebody that I know who is a Bears fan like you, It's kind of pretty obvious. So it's been a while, I know, but you've been coming and going on the comment section. So, it was good to see you come back for this one. But, hey, looking forward to this upcoming season. I know when we play the Bears, I got you on for another show.
Yeah, yes, indeed.
Oh, okay. So, dude, tell me about yourself, man. Tell the people who you are, bro.
Well, of course, everybody that's in the circle of YouTube, I'm more part-time now. I used to be full-time, but, like I said, life be life. Going to school for EMT program, getting ready to try to join the fire departments, things like that, professional boxing, armed security. So I be doing a lot. Just had a kid a year ago. Now he just made one. Size of a 2-year-old, pretty damn big, but I just been moving around a lot, so I haven't had time to really be doing YouTube like I used to. But during the season, I'll be back in. I'll be really back into it and be trying to make sure I do full videos instead of doing all them shorts like I was doing basically last season because I was always at work.
Oh, yeah, dude. I remember at one point you used to do some of your content with KO and all that stuff. But I guess things change for the better at times. So, yeah, I barely get on the YouTube every now and then. But it's kind of good to hear from you. And I know it's kind of like something that we haven't been saying. But how do you feel about the Chicago Bears? But, wait a minute. Before I get on to the Bears, what made you a Chicago Bears fan? Like from you being a fan.
Well, it started back in around like maybe 92. My great grandfather was watching Chicago Bears because he all around Chicago fan. No matter if it was Blackhawks, Bears, White Sox, Cubs. He even watched Chicago Wolves. He was watching all Chicago sports. And I think when I was watching, I think that was maybe Tom Waddle, maybe his last season or close to his last season. I was watching him and watching all the players, and I just fell in love with the game. I just fell in love with that and other sports, and I have been a fan ever since then. And of course, a year later, I became a Cubs fan, and then Sammy Sosa joined the team as well, starting it off, and it just went from there. And Bulls as well. I was definitely in as a Bulls fan, watching Michael Jordan in the early years. Retire, come back and watch that. So I've been a fan of Chicago teams for a long time, except the Sox.
Oh, dude. All Chicago sports, I guess it comes with the territory where you come from. But my brother, for example, was a Chicago Bulls fan, so I just wanted to put that out there. But man, just coming from a Lakers fan, I just didn't like that. Like, I'm like, come on, man. Like, he would give me a hard time. I like Michael Jordan. Don't get me wrong. Michael Jordan was one of the best players of all time. But yeah, you know, if you were becoming a Bears fan during that time, but man, Mike Ditka during those early years, man, and you had like Walter Payton as one of the best backs during that time, and then you had I mean, even some of the wide receivers you guys had, even though when you guys won the Super Bowl, you guys had good receivers, but that one quarterback, Jim McMahon, was the one that got the job done.
Yeah, he was. You know, we had guys that we had so many guys come in over the years. Rex Grossman almost got us there, but of course, it was always good Rex, bad Rex, and you know, he had a good playoff run, but when it came down to playing in that rain and everything else, it was just, you know, it was all bad. That was a sad time in 2007.
Yeah. Rex Grossman was supposed to be the guy that actually win you games. I guess if you wanted to put him in the category, he was kind of like your Jimmy Garoppolo. He did exactly what was necessary, but
he just threw more picks, and he had a stronger arm, and he threw more picks. I wish we would have got the Rex Grossman before the injuries, because he used to actually be a running quarterback in college before he tore his ACL 1 year, broke his ankle another year. Just had constant injuries from 2003 until he finally became the full-time starter in 06.
Okay. So who was like one of your favorite Bears players growing up, like that just got you to be a fan in the beginning?
Okay. It started with Mike Flanagan,
Okay.
Mike Mentor, Bob Sapp, even though he didn't last long because he was and eventually it went to Jerry Azuma, R.W. McCorders, Brian Urlacher, Mike Brown, Mike Green, you know, going back, Brian Robinson, Philip Daniels, Keith Traylor. And then, you know, it just kept progressing from now down. 2003, Charles Tillman show up, Lance Briggs, and then it just, Nathan Basher. I loved a lot of those players. I actually got a chance to meet Tommy Harris back in 2011. He signed an autograph from me that I had sent to my brother, but then right after that, they got killed by New England that week. That was bad.
Yeah, but Tommy Harris, yeah, I remember that guy. He came from Oklahoma. That's like in 2003 draft, or I don't know what draft it was, but he came from Oklahoma.
Yeah, it was 2004. But he really not a big dude in person.
Nah, he's probably like a good undersized. He's probably as big as Aaron Donald, if not bigger.
Yeah, he's supposed to be 290, 295. I'm talking about when I seen him in person, he did not look nowhere near no 290. And I'm taller than him.
Oh man, dude. That's the crazy part. Like sometimes you'd be surprised, but like I remember I was talking about Ricky Manning because I remember he went to your guys' squad and he was one of the guys that coached one of the high schools that I used to like play against. Yeah, Ricky Manning, he was a good addition for your guys' Super Bowl run when you got him from the Panthers.
Yeah, because I think he played for the Panthers during their Super Bowl run too. They first I think he was a rookie during that time period.
Yeah, and then you guys have another Fresno guy, but it just happens to be Jalen Johnson. Like he's just from our area, but yeah, you guys paid him pretty good money, so I have to admit you guys had to give him the money.
They've been a lot better with the money. At first, remember they only really particularly paid the linebackers and the DNs. They didn't always pay the running backs. They would sometimes switch you out if they didn't want to pay you. That's the reason why Thomas Jones didn't stay. That's the reason why Anthony Thomas didn't stay. They didn't want to pay Matt Forte again. That's why Matt Forte was gone. They didn't want to pay Jordan Howard. That's why Jordan Howard was gone.
He was a good running back too. He was a really good running back, but you guys didn't want to pay him or Matt Forte, one of those running backs at the time.
Yeah, well, they paid Matt Forte the first time.
But they didn't want to pay him after that.
Yeah, David Montgomery, they didn't want to pay him. So yeah, they usually pay everybody else, not the running backs.
Yeah, but how do you feel about this upcoming season? I know there was a lot of criticals from last season, because I wasn't quite hating on Justin Fields like that, but I just had a feeling he just wasn't it. And I know I was getting a lot of heat for that, and they were saying, "Oh, you're such a hater. oh, you're saying this because you're this and that, you know. And I'm like, what does that have to do with that? I've seen these Ohio State quarterbacks never panned out, and I just thought Justin Fields just was kind of like a deer in the headlights at times.
Well, with Justin Fields, you know, I watch. I don't just watch the games as a fan. I watch it like as a coach because I've actually coached football too. So I'm watching mechanics, drop backs, how well he's reading the field when he put his head on the swivel. And I even watched the all 22 film, not what somebody else put up there. Literally look up all 22 film and watch after every game just to see what I missed. And basically, his main problems was he dropped back too far. If it's a 3 yards drop, he dropping back 5 yards. If it's a 5 yard drop, he dropping back 8 yards. If it's a 7 yard drop, he dropping back 10 yards. And and everybody knows that these defensive ends is way faster, way better than it was just 5 years ago, 10 years ago. They just that much faster. They may not be as strong, they're a lot lighter, but they're a lot faster than it was then. So the tackle's always gonna be in peril because he dropped back so far. He couldn't always step up in the pocket. People be like, man, it was pressure up the middle. It was not always pressure up the middle. He just didn't step up in the pocket those times he needed to. He always tried to run to the outside and wound up tripping up his feet and getting big sacks or he ended up getting straight fumble, which he was one of the leading causes. I think one of the leaders in giving up fumbles over the years. Well, fumbling the ball at least. He didn't give up a lot of fumbles, but he fumbled a lot. And he locked down on one receiver too much. If it wasn't DJ Moore, it was like everybody else, if they was open, he overthrow him half the time. That's why Darnell Mooney didn't look as good as he did the first time they hooked up, and Darnell Mooney had 1,000 yards for the first time in this year. So it was just a lot of negatives that he didn't do. Now, of course, he could run. When he was locked in, he could see everybody all over the field, but it was just those inconsistencies that he did was the reason why I knew that after this season he was gone. I knew they was going to drop Caleb Williams.
Yeah, I had a feeling something was going to happen because, you know, they don't just put all this stuff for nothing in the draft. And sometimes the draft is always giving you a telling what's going to happen. So it's like, at first, you know, you were thinking, like some of you guys were probably thinking, there's no way we're going to get Caleb Williams, you know, like it just doesn't seem like it, you know, but the more it started making sense with them trading Justin Fields, that was a wrap.
Absolutely, but at least they did him some justice and sent him where he wanted to be sent, where he can have opportunity
to compete.
Yeah. Even though it's gonna be hard to compete with Russell Wilson. A lot of people say Russell Wilson done. He played pretty damn well last year. Played pretty damn well. Their defense wasn't that good. The offense was inconsistent. They still was able to get close to still making a playoff berth. So clearly Russell Wilson has something.
Yeah, but looking into last season for the Bears, you know, I think you guys made some strides, a little bit of improvement. Because the previous year, you guys had the worst record going into that year.
Worst defense, and just about the worst defense.
Yeah. But looking into this offseason, how do you feel about the Bears, man? I know they made some nice, flashy moves.
Well, my prediction last year, they would win 8 games max, at least 5 games. This year, I look at it, they're going to win at least 8 games. But bar none, of course, injuries can come into play, and that can just deflate the whole thing. That can literally kill. Me and you both know injuries can just derail the whole season.
It could. Yeah, it could. But, I just don't know about this Bears team. Just, you got the talent. It's possible. It's very possible how you guys could turn it around. You got solid defense. You got a good foundation. The thing is, can Caleb Williams be what he is? He's got enough receivers, too. So it's not like – I like the trade for Keenan Allen, actually. It just really caught my attention when you guys made that move.
It shocked me, too. It really shocked me. I did not expect it to get Keenan Allen. Ryan Poles, like I said, I was posting it a few times on YouTube, basically over this offseason. But he still needs to find a way to – hopefully the whole line can patched up well enough, guys stay healthy enough where it'd be a consistent core. But what's the main concern is the defensive line in terms of pass rush up. They didn't get a lot of pass rush up the middle. And that's why sometimes quarterbacks are able to escape, even if the defense say they crash down. Now, when they did get pass rush up the middle, it made it easier for Montez Sweat and Delaney Walker or whoever that was on that side. They was doing rotations constantly to get the sack, even though they didn't do it early in the season. But I already know the reason why they didn't do it early in the season. Guys wasn't practicing all the time. Guys always was constantly injured. So I had told a lot of people that's in the Bears community that they're gonna start off slow because the offense don't look ready at all. Especially the offensive line. The defense is not healthy. They not practice enough. So a lot of these guys gonna have a lot of soft tissue injuries early. A lot of those guys they're not gonna be right until they get probably around mid-season when they finally start getting it together and finally being fully game shape. That's what happened after that. They took off, but at least they was good in the run defense. They was ranked number 1 against the run, 21st against the pass last year. At one point, I think they was ranked 30th against the pass, and they, because of all those interceptions and very good games against the pass later on in the season, got them down to 21st. So if there's not a big amount of injuries going on, they can be, I'm not going to say top 5 like a lot of people have their predictions. I would say anywhere between rank number 12 to maybe rank at highest 8th grade defense. That's why.
I mean, yeah, mid-season, you guys were making some strides. I mean, when you guys got Montez Sweat going into that mid-season trade, at first you were at first I was like saying, usually those are the kind of teams that make that for the playoff runs. But for whatever reason, you guys paid Montez Sweat pretty good money to stick around and all that stuff. So I think as far as like your defense, you guys are trying to build a promising defense just from an outside looking in. I think the NFC North is going to be pretty interesting, but hey, here's a familiar face that's kind of good to see you, I guess, in his way. John Jay.
Oh, what's going on, John Jay? How you feeling, man? How you feeling, man?
Yeah, how you feeling, John Jay? Yeah, John Jay, how you feeling, bro? But yeah, dude, the Bears, it's possible that maybe the NFC North might just be as competitive, but on my prediction, I don't want to say this, but it's just like I think maybe the Lions might make another stride again, but I think this may kind of catch you by surprise, but I don't know why. But I feel like with the Packers, they're making strides with Jordan Love, so it might be a little too hard to say, I can't. Like, you know what I mean? But it's just the Packers just have something. They had the same commodity, and it just seems too hard for me to just ignore that part, But if the Bears can somehow make it as a wild card team, then I can see them as a possible team to surprise, Just like when I look at a couple of teams, like there's always going to be that one team that nobody's even talking about, and they end up making the wild card or somehow win the division somehow. There's always that one team that nobody talks about.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, because every year, remember how every year there's always that team that nobody's even thinking about. Like last year, did anybody think the Rams were going to make the playoffs?
Oh, no, definitely.
The previous year, did anybody think Seattle was going to be in the playoffs?
I kind of saw Seattle. I didn't think Jacksonville was going to make it to the playoffs. Maybe.
Nobody thought the Texans would do it this year, too.
Yeah.
Did anybody thought Houston was going to come from a 2-win team to a playoff team like that?
No, not at all.
I think if you look at it this way, maybe if things go the right way for the Bears, I think they might be a wild card team.
Yeah, that's why I said they're going to win at least 8 games. That's why I said at least 8.
If it goes your guys' way and you guys are healthy. But because I was talking to my buddy who's a Packers fan, and he kept saying, I don't know, man, the Bears look like they're going to be good this year. And because he just liked how you guys made some moves, and he's just from a rival's perspective, and he says, dude, I hate to say this, but he says, I think the Bears might be really good this year. He says the previous year I would always take them for granted, but I've talked to a few people, and he says, dude, they got that quarterback, they got that wide receiver. He says they're making moves, dude. They look like the Bears from the time they made that Super Bowl run, he thinks.
Almost. What? Well, comparing wide receiver cores, there's no comparison. This wide receiver core is way better. Because back then, of course, It was Muhsin Muhammad, Bernard Berrien. They had a few other guys like Bradley. Yeah, no, that wide receiver core is
No, but if you look
nothing
at your
like that.
wide receiver, if you look at your wide receiver core from last year, it's a lot better. You got Keenan Allen, who's still in his he's already past his prime, but still a damn good receiver. Just needs to stay healthy. I mean, you look at DJ Moore, which I thought was a good trade. You fleeced the Panthers pretty bad on that deal. Then you guys get yourself that receiver for Washington, who I really liked a lot. I don't know why, but Ramsey Doomsday just seemed like a really good receiver. But dude, just from the offense, dude, I think Caleb Williams is gonna blow up for some reason.
I believe so too, but I don't think it's going to be. I don't know if it's going to be right away. I think that he's going to have some growing pains. For at least the first few weeks of the season, maybe the first 4 weeks before you really get it together. But it's going to be more so of that defense that helps them keep them in the game, and Caleb Williams start making plays late in the game, something that Justin Fields really didn't do at all. That's probably going to be what's going to separate him from Justin Fields of old, because he's probably going to be able to make those plays that Justin Fields failed to do. Or Justin Field made the plays and the defense couldn't hold. But I think the defense is, of course, strong enough to make those type of plays to hold them. But this time they actually got a quarterback that can move the ball up and down the field probably more consistently. Of course, this is all talk right now. We won't know nothing until the season officially starts.
Yeah.
But, based on what I've been seeing from training camp videos, other posts of people watching, he's competing out there with a pretty good defense. And some days they have their time, some days defense just straight up destroys them, and then some days they go back and forth. So he's basically getting prepped properly for the NFL, because they're not going to play with him at all. But the first test will be, to me, starting during the preseason. A lot of people say preseason don't mean nothing, but preseason has clearly gave me the accurate predictions that I needed to see during the season. Like, I knew a couple of years ago when everyone just kept breaking on big runs on the starting defense, I was like, oh yeah, they're going to be one of the worst run defenses. Thought I was crazy again. I ain't gonna mention no names, but they thought I was crazy again. Long and behold, 31st ranked defense against the run.
Yeah. And that's just how it kind of seems like, because sometimes when you watch the preseason game, it's more of an eye test to look at it, how you look at it, and sometimes it could translate, or it depends on how the season goes. I mean, when you look at certain players, you want to see if they're legit or not. But from looking at Ramsey Doomsday, I guess from John Jay, he wants to know what you think of the receiver from Washington.
I think as of right now, of course, he's the third option, because you got DJ Moore and Keenan Allen. If he don't suffer any major injuries early in his career, and he's able to learn a lot how to be a professional wide receiver from Keenan Allen and DJ Moore, and he works real hard in the off season, he's a breakout receiver for the Bills. But DJ Moore is not that old. DJ Moore is 26, maybe 27 at the oldest. Still in the prime of his career, haven't suffered any major injuries. So he got a good core to mentor him. And this season definitely going to tell you how much he's really been working on his game, how much he's really been working on his craft, to see how he's going to go out there and perform. So as of right now, everything is swinging up for him. But when the season starts, by the time we get mid-season, we should be able to know at least a little bit more of what Doomsday is really about.
Yeah, but it's kind of intriguing that you guys decided to go get another receiver. There was some talks that some certain content creator from your fan base will say, "There's no way we're going to get Marvin Harrison Jr. No way we're going to get Caleb Williams." There was a lot of that. Other people thinking the other way around, but
yeah, of course, that's because they wanted Justin Fields to stay. Yeah. And even though they originally didn't want Justin Fields at all, they wanted what's his damn name? He used to play for the Patriots. He irrelevant.
You're talking about Mac Jones.
Yeah, they really wanted Mac Jones very badly. They was mad when the Bears got Justin Fields. So that's why I feel like inconsistency is going to show.
Yeah,
So it is when it comes down.
yeah, and there's this other certain content creator from your fan base that kind of had the same hype on the same crap on the certain quarterback. Now he was on the train for a little bit. Now since he's kind of heading up the other quarterback, it's like, I guess you got to go with the flow. I guess the train, you know. But I don't know what is it with Nick Wright. Nick Wright seems pretty high on your quarterback, and he hasn't even played a snap yet. That's the crazy part, man.
I don't listen to Nick Wright.
He's on the train with Caleb Williams, bro. It's just when I saw his top 5 list, he put Caleb Williams over Brock Purdy and those other quarterbacks.
Yeah, that's why I say don't listen to him. It's all about the money, man. It's all about the money, getting people hyped up. So if his prediction do turn out to be right, even though we don't know what's going to happen, then he can say he was right. But you know how the media works. If he's wrong, most of them don't admit that they're wrong. They just start bashing right after.
They'll try to act like they were just like they'll just pretend they didn't even say it or something like that. But if he gets it right about Caleb Williams, he's gonna say, "Oh, I told you guys so. I told you about this kid," and all that stuff. But so yeah, when you look at how the Bears are gonna be, like, you know, I think as far as your defense, like you said, you guys had the 30 ranked defense at that point. But now that you guys added some pieces and all that stuff, maybe it's going to make huge improvement. But I think as far as your offense from the previous years with Justin Fields at quarterback, or I don't know, like I know last year this guy kind of made some strides. I don't know, some Bears fans were either on this guy's wagon for a little bit because I know Tyson Bagent was a quarterback that nobody had an idea about, you know, last year. But what you thought about him from last year?
Oh, well, he played exactly like you expect a rookie to play. He made some mistakes here and there. He made some good plays. But what you saw was that he was able to see the field a little bit easier with Justin Fields. He at least threw to the short pass when it was open instead of still looking down the field, holding the ball way too long. Didn't risk injury. When he saw openness to run, he took them right away to a point that he made the defense suck themselves up to try to cover the short pass and the run from him to a point that it made it easier to throw passes 15 yards down the middle of the field. It made those out routes 10, 15 yards down the field be open. You know, some got intercepted because the misplacement of the ball was thrown. But you've seen where his progression was, where he was literally, where he came from, that he really was a student of the game, that he really was paying attention on what he needed to do. So as of that, and along with another year of progression, he can be good, but I don't know how that's going to work out with him continuing to be a Bear. Now, he may be able to go somewhere else and be able to go out there and perform, but as far as being a Bear, if he continue to do what he needs to do and progress, let's say, God forbid, Caleb Williams get hurt, he's gone for the rest of the season. Tyson Bagent should be able to step in and be out there and perform adequately, especially a lot better than he did last year. He did have his moments where he was doing it.
But I think he's shown enough to be a good backup for you guys right now. So I think he fits exactly how you guys were running the offense a little bit. So he came in as an undrafted free agent, and there was a lot of this. I know there was quite a few people saying, "Oh, let's just play this kid because Fields wasn't playing too good." I know there was a lot of guys that were upset about that possibility about Fields getting benched or something, but he just kept getting hurt a lot. So it came down to that road where you guys wanted to move on. So it was one or the other, because the GM that you guys got, he didn't inherit Justin Fields. So he had an option to go pick his own quarterback if he wanted to.
Yeah, he did. And he still tried to give Justin Fields a chance simply because Justin Fields ran for over 1,000 yards. A lot of those games they could have won, just the defense was so bad. If they had Justin Fields played the way he did the previous season, but they had last year's defense, the Bears probably win 10 games. They probably beat Detroit. They probably beat Detroit twice. They beat Miami. They probably beat the Packers once. They beat the Vikings twice because of that. And that's 3 wins. So that's a bunch of wins on top of that. That means they beat the Giants. They beat a few more teams that they was in it with, and even the games that they got blown out in, but they scored multiple points, like like against Dallas, where they gave up 42, but they scored 29. Or against Atlanta, a game that they could have won, but the defense was just so damn bad, even though they had some bad calls against them. Just defense just wasn't good enough. So those games flip. A lot of those games flip this schedule.
Yeah, I think everybody knew that playing against those certain teams, they were going to be a little tougher. Like, especially the level you guys were playing. I don't think you guys were in that same level as Dallas that previous year because you guys were still like a young team and all that. Then when you were playing teams like, playing a team like the Commanders, you guys had a good game on that one where you guys won that game by a blowout.
Right, but the year before, that was one that still irritate my soul to this day. Not catching up on it. So it was very good to see them like stick they put up Washington's ass. I was happy.
Yeah, it seemed like a surprise because at the time the Commanders were actually kind of making a push for a wild card spot at one point, and you guys just happened to be. You guys only, I think you guys were only winning your first game of the season, if I was mistaken. Was it your first or second game? If I remember.
Right. You're probably right. I believe it's somewhere around the first or second game.
Yeah, because I remember when you guys were. I remember your first win of the season. You guys were starting making strides. You guys were like on a really bad start, and then you guys played against the Commanders, and I believe that was your guys' first win of the season.
Yeah, and Justin Fields actually looked like a quarterback that game. DJ Moore he was out there cooking with gas. He was out there really like balling out. I think he had 3 receiving touchdowns, over 200 yards receiving, almost 250 yards receiving that game. If he didn't hit 200 yards. So it was it was perfect. It was perfection.
Yeah, I expect it to be a little better. Like you said, 8 wins max because it depends on your guys' team health. But just from an outside looking in, the NFC North just seems more like the Packers and Lions. But maybe the Bears could just sneak in and just catch people by surprise. So I remember I was talking to a certain other fan from another team, and maybe we might underestimate a certain team like that. So I looked at the Tennessee Titans also as a sleeper team that nobody's even talking about. Maybe that's another sleeper team too that nobody's even mentioning about because last year nobody was talking about the Texans. And once they saw what DeMeco Ryans did with C.J. Stroud, that's exactly how it became. So sometimes it's always going to have to turn out to be, was the pick right or wrong? You look at the Panthers, they're suffering, bro. They're suffering, and their hope is maybe they can get a couple wins.
Well, they don't have anybody. Now, their quarterback, he'll probably know in his talents. It's C.J. Stroud. But when you go to a team that literally has nobody to throw to, nobody on defense that really can make a play, you're going to look bad.
Yeah.
Look bad. Like even though I said those negative things about Justin Fields, other than his first year when he still had Khalil Mack, Robert Quinn, and everybody, Robert Quinn wound up having the Bears sack record. Other than that, they traded away everybody, so they really had nobody. And he played well, even last year. He really didn't have nobody other than one guy to really consistently throw to, 2 guys really, Cole Kmet, DJ Moore. It was like he just couldn't hit Darnell Mooney at all. He didn't look for the short passes to the running backs that have caused the defense to come up so that he can throw those in between throws to 2 wide receivers in between seams that would have allowed the game to really open up for the running game, even though they still have one of the best running games in the league. It would have opened it up a little bit more, but it was like just those little intangibles right there is what he was missing, and that's why they drew a lot of games early that they probably should have won. Like should have beat the Buccaneers early. They should have won at least 2 games the first 4 weeks of the season instead of going completely on. There was 2 games they should have won, and the other 2 games wasn't going to beat the Chiefs.
There's always that team that should have had a good start, but they came up short because of these certain games. I think those are like those kind of bad teams that kind of show you some promising, and they kind of come close, and they're not finishing it. It's that kind of team. But just from looking at the Bears, I expect them to at least be a lot better than the previous years, of course. Like my ceiling for the Bears, since you said 8 wins is a ceiling, I think 10 wins would probably be the highest ceiling. I'll go with the Bears because I feel like this is a team that's got a good offense, right? They got a good offense. As long as you have a good defense to hold up, I think there's just no way in my mind that I don't see no reason why you guys should win 10 games. 10 games is 10. See, it's coming from a Niners fan, and I think 10 games is good enough for you guys to be excited about. Like, just from an outside looking in, this division is going to be competitive. But I look at your guys' schedule. I look at it very favorable. Like, there's some matchups I could see the Bears win, and people will be surprised by these games. Like, if you look at your guys' schedule, right? The way I look at it is you're going to match up against some certain bad defenses. And I think your quarterback's going to surprise people a little bit. And I think your receiving core is going to have some favorable matchups, bro. So it's just gonna lead to 10 wins, in my opinion. And if I'm right about this, I will say, hey, I could see this as maybe a wild card team at best. But just from looking at the Niners, how do you feel about the Niners? Just from the NFC perspective.
Well, even though I don't always comment, I be watching you. I be watching John Jay. I just be watching from afar and see what y'all be doing. And y'all lost some pieces. Y'all added some pieces here and there. It's very much gonna be another playoff year for you guys. I even rooted for you guys a few years ago when y'all went to the playoffs and y'all played Chiefs the first time, and I rooted for y'all to play the Chiefs the second time. Even though the second time around I predicted the Chiefs to win, I was hoping I was wrong, so then I can see the celebration on your face. So then I can be like, yeah, good shit, CG, good shit for your team. But it came up short yet again. But they're gonna be pretty damn good this year, bar none, of course. Like we said, injuries can derail the season. Hopefully the injuries is not real bad for you guys, especially to the key components to you guys on offense, defense, and special teams. And y'all, and it seemed like the depth y'all got behind the starters is adequate enough that they can hold up for at least 4 to 6 weeks, just in case if the starter does come back. So it should be at least 11-win season.
Okay, 11 wins.
At worst, 10. I say 10 to 12 games should be.
That's fair enough because, like you said, the injuries. But I think if you look at the competition in the division, you have the Rams. That's pretty much it. Seattle, we don't know what they're going to be. They got a new regime, so it can be a different culture. The Cardinals, I don't know, man. Like, I don't really see what they are right now. I could be wrong, but we'll see. It's just when you got a new coaching staff and Kyler Murray, can he actually be a difference maker? Like maybe when the Cardinals were going through half a season without Kyler Murray, they were suffering. But once he came back, he did make a difference. But will it matter if they play in this division? I just think that the Niners and Rams are just going to be too good. So Seattle's going to probably be that one. What?
I'm saying it depends on their schedule.
Yeah, depends on the schedule. But when you look at the rest of the teams, like, you look at the Philadelphia Eagles, I just think what they were missing last year was a physical, dominant type of style of defense. And when they lost C.J. Gardner-Johnson to the Lions, I just thought they just never had that dog, They were starting off good, They were on a good start last year, and then they just fell off.
Yeah, they did, but that's why you gotta have depth. You gotta have somebody that's not only willing to step up, but is capable of stepping up. Even if they nowhere near as good as the player that's in front of them, they at least adequate enough where they don't give up that many touchdowns. They get an interception or two throughout the year, at least 3. They at least make the quarterback think about throwing their way before they just throw it. So it's a lot of teams that got that problem now. It's not a lot of depth. I feel like it was 10, 15, 20 years ago. Remember back in the day where guys literally come out of nowhere and just start lighting it up. Like Kyle Fuller, even though he was supposed to be a starter eventually with Charles Tillman. Charles Tillman tears his pectoral muscle. You know, all of most Bear fans is like, God damn, it's over with. Even though that was a bad year, he comes right in, plays adequate enough, gets 4 or 5 interceptions throughout his first season. And he didn't even play all the way his first few games like that. He was mainly like a special teams guy, nickel package, dime package type of corner. Came right into the starting lineup and started dominating. Of course, injuries and then Pro Bowl season and then injuries after that. And I can't even tell you where the hell he is now, but it was guys like that.
It usually happens for some players, but for him to be coming into the league as a first-round pick for you guys, you would think he would have a role to contribute right away. But that's not always the case for some of these first rounds because you got all these veterans, but it makes it like a luxury pick to have something extra because if you look at the Niners' perspective, you know, people didn't expect us to get a wide receiver. Like, what the heck were we doing, right? But if injuries happen, you get this guy to step in and play.
Exactly, man. You know, I know the Niners already. I know Kyle Shanahan. He's gonna find a way to scheme him in some type of way to make plays. It's not gonna be a one-trick pony type of receiver. He's gonna mix them in. I already know screen passes, drag routes. He might have them do a little bit of special teams. I don't know if it's gonna be punt return. I don't know exactly how Kyle Shanahan do everything, but I do know he does scheme for his players. Every player on his team, not just the special ones, but he schemed for every player on the team to make sure that they make plays, even if they end up just with one play. That damn game, they still at least gonna make a play.
One thing I'll give Kyle his credit is he'll find ways to utilize their strength the most, like especially Debo and Brandon Ayuk. He used them into their full potential. Could it be the same with Ricky Pearsall? I think it's possible, but I just didn't like the pick in the beginning because I was like saying, dude, why would you get somebody when you can get the kid from South Carolina? Like even that's a guy that Debo even wanted to get in the draft. But the more I started watching this Pearsall kid, I think he was one of the top 3 receivers when it came to being a reliable catcher. And I guess that's what Kyle likes. But then I'm hearing a lot of these comparisons of maybe he's like a Cooper Kupp. I don't know. And everybody keeps saying just because he's white, nah, maybe he's something else. And everybody kept saying, look at Cooper Kupp. He can separate too. And I'm like, Cooper Kupp's a little different compared to this guy. And then everybody's kind of putting the comparisons of Puka. Maybe he could be like another Puka from what the Rams had last year. But I think the difference with him is it's a stack receiver because under the previous years, when we had Debo and Brandon Ayuk, they were in a situation to contribute right away. So I don't think it's gonna be for Pearsall to contribute right away like everybody else. Like if he gets his opportunities, he'll get his opportunities.
Yeah. Well, I got a question for you, with knowing now what full season, two seasons with Brock Purdy, what is the negatives and the positives that you see that Brock Purdy brings to the table, and what you think that he needs to improve on in order basically to get the 49ers to get that championship, get them to that next level?
That's a really good question. Okay, so we're gonna start off the positive with Brock Purdy. Okay, the thing about Brock Purdy is he will not be afraid of taking shots down the field like most of the quarterbacks do. He doesn't really tend to hold on to the ball too long. The one thing that everybody keeps talking about is his completion percentage is something that just seems to get better every year. That's the one thing I've always heard about. The negative side is everybody keeps saying he doesn't have a strong arm, which I'm like saying, does any quarterbacks have all that strong arm? Not everybody does. I mean, you look at all the great quarterbacks. Like you look at Tom Brady. Did Tom Brady ever have a strong arm? No.
He had a strong enough arm, especially when he had Moss. You seen the full extent of his strength then. Because he had somebody to throw too deep. Most of his career, no. Until he got Moss. When he got Moss, and you saw he had a strong arm then.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is like they all started off as strong arms. Not all of them, dude. They had to work their craft at it. So one thing about Brock Purdy that came into the league was like, they didn't look at him as a strong arm. He's not your prototypical quarterback. Like he's not a 6'3" or 6'4" quarterback who can just have a rocket arm like a Josh Allen. He's not that guy. But what he could be is he could be your poor man Drew Brees, man. Drew Brees wasn't the biggest quarterback in the world, but he had he had good talent enough. But I think when you look at Brock Purdy's game, the one thing he's improved the most is actually his work ethic just seems to stand out the most. Everybody keeps talking about how he puts in the extra work and how he wants to get better, and he has that winning competitiveness. So the difference between him and Trey Lance, it just seemed a little off. The weird part was this guy was the last pick in the draft. And when you know how these last pick in the drafts, they're not guaranteed a roster spot. They're more like a practice squad or maybe just be lucky to be on an NFL roster at this point.
Yeah.
But I think the one improvement that I'll have to admit is the accuracy has been the most improving part of his game, because I think Kyle has put him in position to succeed at those spots. Kyle seems more confident with him throwing the ball more than most quarterbacks he's had the previous years. Because with Jimmy Garoppolo, he didn't trust him enough. So he had to limit his passing game. I think the difference with Brock Purdy is I think Kyle's going to start opening up the passing game a lot more than the previous years. And I think that's I think that's the most improving part about Brock Purdy. But if we're looking from a negative perspective, I think it's just his arm's not strong enough. And he's just not a big quarterback. That's the negative side that everybody keeps bringing up the most. Like, he's just not a big quarterback. Let's be honest.
He's about 6'2". He's about the same size as Aaron Rodgers.
No, he's about 6'1", actually.
Okay, 6. So he is shorter than Aaron Rodgers. He about 212, 215?
He's about 220, but not a big quarterback is what everybody keeps saying. Like, he's as big as Baker Mayfield. But they look at him as like, okay, what could he do without lesser talent? Okay, so we saw a couple of games where some of the guys were out, and that's the downside of him. Can he do with less, right? We saw a little bit of those glimpses, a little bit of the samples, but let's be honest, I think it was more of a learning experience for the guy. I think from watching him, I think it's only going to get better, because I think when you're a younger player, you're going to go through some growing pains, and I think those were his growing pains from the process.
Okay.
Yeah, because if I remember correctly, remember how the offensive line was a little injured and you had some players missing the time, like Debo was out for that game against the Browns after the injury. You saw a few games like the Vikings, some of the parts. Some of it was a little bit kind of like a question mark, but I think that's when it kind of clicked in for him at some point. So I think that's part of his weakness was what can he do with less talent? And I think he's shown enough. I think it was more of a learning experience because he had to adapt with the other receivers. But I don't think it's going to be much of an issue with him going forward. Because he's going to build chemistry with these guys. He didn't even have a full offseason last year. He didn't even have an offseason to train. He was coming off an injury, like an elbow UCL injury coming against the Eagles. He didn't even train. This offseason, he is training with all these receivers.
Really? That's going to give him more of an opportunity.
Yeah, and I think that's what matters. And even if Ayuk's not out there, he's still building chemistry with that young receiver that we just drafted. So maybe there's chemistry right with that receiver they got. And if I'm Brandon Ayuk, I want to get that contract done, or else maybe I don't think he has any leverage. I'm gonna be honest. Like, dude, we just drafted this other kid. What if this kid turns out to be exactly what Ayuk is? Then Ayuk is screwed up. What?
Or better,
yeah. Like, let's say hypothetically, Pearsall becomes the best rookie by far, and Ayuk just holds out for some reason. That's going to be bad on his part. But if Pearsall turns out good, that could be bad on Ayuk's part. He might have to take a lesser deal at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's possible. I think that's a good problem to have.
Yeah, it definitely is. It definitely is.
But I think there's a couple sleepers that I can be surprised about this year. We did draft this kid from Florida State, this cornerback. I think I'm hearing a lot of buzz about him. Like he might even be the starter off the bat. So we'll see. Ronaldo Green seems like a really good sticky cover guy.
Well, he kind of like that for me. Because even though I haven't been able to do YouTube for certain teams, like you guys that I connect with, I watch film on certain people that y'all draft. That's why I said, the competition he went against was kind of iffy for the most part. So he had some good games in between, but it's probably going to be a lot more growing pains for him before he really
starts.
Really
yeah. But I think when we got this one guy from the Saints, he's supposed to be really good. So maybe he might just be the starter right off the bat before we get Ronaldo Green. But Ronaldo Green seems like a nice, viable piece to have for next year, maybe. But I think for the long haul, he might be our contributor. But look at the rest of our cornerbacks. Travarius Ward is entering his contract year, so I think he wants to definitely get a contract to stick around. Lenore, I think you got to pay this guy a little bit of money just to stick around because I think he's a good nickel. So I think with him sticking around is a good thing. I don't think we have a lot of flaws from our secondary from previous years because the previous years we've had a lot of weak spots where we had no backups to step in and play well. If injuries were to happen, we would be stuck with somebody who wasn't even that good. But Avery Thomas kind of like had his up and down season, and we're just at a point where we don't want to play Avery Thomas anymore. So it's like this guy's he can be a liability. I can't say much for Avery Thomas, but we added so many cornerback depth that maybe it's at a point where we don't even have to have Avery Thomas on the roster no more.
Yeah, or he can just be a special teams guy.
Yeah, he could be one of them, but I think we already have we have a deep cornerback depth than we had last year. But this year's safety depth, I like how we actually did well in this offseason. I mean, Jair Brown shows some promising as a rookie. Hufanga, he should be back within week 1, hopefully. But if not, we got this kid from Wake Forest who I really think is going to be a baller. And this guy's fast, and he's just built like a linebacker. Like, I'm not kidding. This kid from Wake Forest just looks like he's just going to lay you out or something. I've seen a couple of his highlight videos and some of the videos that he played. I mean, some of the film tape, and this guy just stands out. He doesn't miss tackles. That's the crazy part.
But that's a good thing to have for you to have somebody that's a sure tackler. That's one of the main problems that our team had, that they didn't have a lot of sure tackles. You had guys that was willing to make the tackle, but we had way too many guys that was not sure tackles. So that is a great depth to have. And if we get into the starting lineup, that's going to be excellent because he'll be that guy that will make 11-yard gain, stay 11-yard gain instead of 11-yard gain turn to a 25-yard gain.
Yeah, one of those type of situations. But from looking at the Bears' perspective, like, which is a player that you're kind of thinking, like, hey, this guy's going to break out because I've seen what he did the previous year. Like, which player that nobody's even talking about on the Bears that you feel like is going to break out?
Cole Kmet.
Oh, Cole Kmet. Yeah, I think for tight end, I think he's actually kind of been under the radar for a while, but I think with Caleb Williams looking for that other go-to guy, I think he might benefit out of this.
Yeah, I think he's going to, because he became Justin Fields' safety blanket the year before, and he was still that last year, just not as much because, of course, DJ Moore came into the picture. But Cole Kmet can be one of those guys. A tight end is always a quarterback's best friend, especially early in their career. We saw it with Brett Favre with his tight ends. We saw even with Peyton Manning giving it to his tight ends, again, Marvin Harrison, and then eventually Reggie Wayne, Brandon Stokely. And, of course, Dallas Clark came up, and then they gave it to him. Edgerrin James, Joseph Addai. You've seen it with Tom Brady hitting his tight ends early in his career. and giving it to his multiple receivers. So it's a it helps a lot. And with hitting the tight end so much, that always open up the game even more for your wide receivers because now they got to double the tight end if they're killing.
Oh yeah. Since you're talking about tight ends, we'll just throw in a random topic on this one. Like, since from an outside looking in, I know this pick was probably the most surprising for this one team, but how do you feel about the Raiders going for that 2 tight end set, bro? They just got the tight end from Georgia, and then they just got the one from Notre Dame the previous year, bro. I think the 2 tight end set might be what could expand this offense. I think you want to make it more of a mismatch. Maybe at the time it was kind of like a questionable pick, but let's be honest, maybe they just couldn't get the quarterback. So I think this is probably the interesting pick of them all.
Yeah, it can be. If the quarterback plays well, it can look basically like it did with New England when they had Rob Gronkowski
and Hernandez.
Yeah, they had Aaron Hernandez back in the day. That's what made. Remember, I just said about tight end being the best friend because of those 2 guys was dominating. That left the wide receivers in one-on-one position that allowed Tom Brady to hit those guys. Field, especially with a lot of short passes, slants, in and out combination routes that allow those wide receivers to be open when they normally wouldn't because it would be a safety over the top, or at least a safety over the middle. Now the safety has to drop down and cover the tight end and leaves one-on-one coverage.
Oh yeah, definitely. So I think a 2 tight end set can still be effective in today's NFL if they use it that way. But yeah, I definitely can see where you're coming from with Cole Kmet. But didn't you guys just sign Gerald Everett because he's another tight end that you guys just picked up?
Exactly. And that's why, once again, 2 tight end set coming to play. And if you use it correctly, that can definitely help out in the run game. But you have to make sure that blocking is working very well because we have 2 tight end set. The running back is in the backfield by himself, so he's more susceptible of the play getting blown up because there's no fullback back there that can take on if that lineman busts through or that linebacker come in on the blitz and everybody on the line is blocking adequately, and then it's up to the running back to try to make that one move to break free.
Yeah.
So those are the risks with running a 2 tight end set.
Oh, yeah, for sure. So from looking at your running back position, you guys got DeAndre Swift from the Eagles, and then you look at the guy that you guys drafted from Texas. Then you got that one running back that you guys drafted from Virginia Tech, I believe. But how do you feel about this running back depth so far?
The running back depth is more precise than it was last year. You still got the guy that can catch the football out the backfield. You had it with David Montgomery. Now you got it with Swift. Still got Roshan Johnson that is a power runner. He got decent catching and all of that. Right now, I don't know why I can't remember his name. Khalil Herbert. There we go.
Oh, yeah. Khalil Herbert is the one guy I was talking about from Virginia Tech, the one you guys drafted. Yeah.
Khalil Herbert can catch the ball. His catching has improved drastically over time because at first he couldn't catch at all. I think Khalil Herbert is probably the fastest out the group. But the more complete back, of course, is DeAndre Swift. So it just depends on how they rotate those guys in certain situations and how they use those guys when they're actually in the lineup. Because if they use them adequately, it's going to be one of the best running back tandems in the league.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. So, I think the way how I look at it, I think getting a guy like Swift's caliber he's a good receiving back too, so he can be effective. I think what we saw with him with the Eagles was he was able to utilize his potential because in Detroit he just wasn't used the right way. So I think when he went to the Eagles, all the injuries, maybe that was the factor. Maybe that's why they moved on. But looking from all the other teams, dude, I think it's going to be one of the most intriguing seasons. Can actually the Bears be a playoff team? We'll see about it. I don't think it's out of the question. Like I said, 10 wins is my kind of ceiling. And even for 10 wins, that's not hating. That's actually being nice to most people because if this team can actually gel in the early part of the season, I don't see no reason why the Bears wouldn't be a playoff team,
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's all about staying healthy. And I think you guys have the depth to overcome some sustained injuries. I think you guys have some guys who can step in. So I think from your previous years, you guys have had some injuries where you guys didn't have the right guys to step in. But I think with the talent that you guys are building, it's only going to get better for the Bears. So, yeah, we'll see about it. But, we've been going on for almost an hour, and I know, hey, man, it was a good time, bro. Definitely appreciate you on the show, bro.
Absolutely.
Everything kind of just goes into place, bro. But, hey, maybe for the Niners and Bears matchup, we'll definitely catch up once again.
Absolutely, man. You know, anytime for me, man. You know, we can go out there. We can get out an adequate conversation and give a real precise in depth on both teams and what we think about what's going on throughout the season.
Oh yeah, I'm definitely going to get you on for the Niners and Bears week because I know you know your stuff, and we can definitely break down some matchups and all that stuff. But it had to be a good, I'm glad we worked it out for today. It was just inconvenient what happened, so it was like whatever. But it all worked out for the best today. So I'm glad we got it done. And for everybody else, man, just tell them who you are, and then you can go on a high note. Tell them where your platform is if they want to look for you and all that other stuff.
Yeah, man. If you want to look me up, of course, just look up the name Joneth Piptne. I do boxing videos and Bears videos. Right now, like I said, I'm taking a little small break, but I'm still watching behind the scenes. I'm still gathering information. I'm even watching other YouTubers and see what their perspective is, whether I agree with it or not. But by the time the preseason starts, I will be more back than I am now. But until then, I probably will start doing more of what I'm doing now, being a guest on other people's show if they're willing to have me on. And we can discuss the values of each team and, just go from there.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And, yeah, dude, it's been like at least 2 years since we've been on this show, and all that other stuff. And it was the last time I went on your show a while back, too. I remember I was on you and KO's show like a couple years ago. So we were kind of like breaking down the matchups and all that, but it was 2 years ago. But, yeah, dude, we're definitely going to catch up once again. But for everybody else, man, this is Joneth Piptne, man. He's a professional boxer, by the way, like he said, and he's a Bears fan. So if you guys are looking for a Bears fan, go check out his channel. It's Joneth Piptne. He's got like his boxing videos, and he's a Bears content creator or a Chicago sports fan in general. So go check him out. And for everybody else, thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll see you soon.